I'm just going to cover off a little bit about why I'm proposing an enterprise program. There's a few reasons. There's 20% of the world's data is public. So we know that by opening this up to enterprise data, that there are many verticals and use cases that are viable and useful data that could expand the opportunities in deal making for storage providers. We also know that proof of concepts for Web3 aware clients are a pathway to decision making, and that they also are incentivized. They'll trade off risk and early stage of development for incentives. So DataCap will be important in that process. So the scope of an enterprise program is that we are going to offer enterprise clients that have non-public data, so private data, offer them the ability to onboard onto the network. And we're still going to use DataCap or make use of DataCap as a resource. Storage providers will also still take advantage of the quality adjusted power. So some similarities with FilePlus. It is not changing FilePlus. That will still exist in its own right. This is in addition to it. What would be different? What's going to be different in an enterprise program as opposed to FilePlus? So I'm proposing that we start with a soft launch. So it's a minimum viable product style of beta program. We don't need to know everything. We don't need to launch a fully featured product. We just need to know enough about it to test a lot of our hypotheses. And it will be a closed trial, so a limited number of storage providers and clients. Data classification is going to be something new. That's going to enter into this equation because we won't be looking at the data. We'll need clients to have a different responsibility and to be owning what their classification of data is. We know that storage providers are also acting as business development, in business development roles. So we're giving them an opportunity through a prototype, which is a UX into GitHub that can help them capture a lot of data along the way that might feed into service levels and contracts. I'm also talking about this concept of a lead storage provider. This is someone who's herding all the kittens, right? Bringing the other storage providers together that might be participating in the deal. And as we're making a relationship with a organization over data or a project, we're talking about making commitments to each other, so between storage providers and clients, and this is where service levels and contracts will come into the picture. And lastly, we'll be asking for the lead SP to be submitting a distribution plan with their client application. So it's full transparency about all the geographies, the client onboarding, as well as the timeframes.
All right, great. So how can SPs participate? And we have a lot of SPs here. How do you want them to reach out maybe to you or to the team?
At the back of the pack, there is an issue. It's number 527 discussion issue. So please have a look. There is a more detailed pack than this one. Have a look. I'm looking for either consensus or feedback or anything that might be a consideration or something we should factor in as a hypothesis in the program. But I'm also looking for storage providers who want to be part of the program. That means that you're going to have to provide some feedback as well. So you're going to be offering up some clients, you're going to be part of a feedback loop, and I'm looking for those that can be part of this working group because I've got as far as I possibly can with drafting an outline, but it needs input from both clients, notaries, and storage providers. So a working group is probably pretty high on that list. I'm just going to whiz through the governance sort of the differences in the governance process because we covered it off this morning already in detail. There will be some proposed changes to how we establish trust, which is through KYC as opposed to due diligence being on data and the project, and some differences in the notary process. So they'll still be self-directed, but it really does need some service, some targets, some weekly expectations, service levels, and And from my experience, there needs to be some incentive as well for the notaries to participate. And I'm looking for a cohort for them. So in the last group, I asked for notaries that would be dedicated to just this MVP period, which is like 6 to 8 months. This one here actually is a fairly significant difference between FilePlus, which is DataCap being client-centric. So I'm proposing that as opposed to it being an algorithm that's just delivering percentage of DataCap according to the volume that the client's onboarding, is that it's more aligned with the client's needs and that there's less of them. So in the first year, there may be as few as 3. A proof of concept, which is anywhere between 100 TIB to 1 PB, post proof of concept, and then another one within the first 12 months. And should there be significant change in volume, then perhaps there's a 4th tranche. But all of this is sort of landing back to, if we're doing some more KYC upfront, we're establishing a little more trust between the organisation. We have some contracts in place. It really should be working in the corner of reducing risk and bad actors, but like everything, it will still need monitoring in place to make sure there's no reputational risk. For you guys, I'm going to pass over the governance ones just in the interest of time and go straight to storage provider. These are really kind of the areas of consensus that I'm looking for some input in. There will be some criteria for a storage provider to participate. And we do want lots of diversity across use cases and geographies to make sure we've got that range of feedback and insights that we can feed into what will be lean sprints in designing the program. The value propositions, essentially the same as FilePlus, but what we do with it and how we design it will come out in the program. And if you're one of those storage providers that has a passion in this area, then be part of the working group, because we can design it in a Web3 way. It doesn't have to be a Web2 world. The storage provider incentives, as I mentioned, quality adjusted power still going to exist, so will DataCap, but we're proposing that there is a lead origination bonus. So doing all that hard work, onboarding or bringing and doing that sales process with a client, which is not insignificant effort, deserves some reward. And so we've talked about the DataCap tranches already, but number 10 is the last one. And it's a hypothesis that we should be testing in the MVP phase, which is some situational variables that are going to determine that there are different distribution requirements. So we know that FilePlus and Slingshot are widely distributed. Enterprise may not be so widely distributed. The enterprise client may not want 5 copies all around the world. And I used this example this morning. In Australia, we're very regulated. A lot of our opportunities and use cases will want the data to stay onshore. So can that distribution be within Australia so long as it's not in the same location? So these are some of the things that I really want to be testing in this MVP phase with a working group, storage provider working group. And we really just want to, achieve some of these goals, make life a little bit simpler and more streamlined for everyone involved, but particularly clients and storage providers. And that this opens up bigger opportunity for you guys, that you've got a bigger opportunity in the market to extend it beyond just public data. The plan, so this is really kind of live now. This is a proposal on the table. I'm looking for feedback, consensus, or anything that might be a showstopper. The working groups, which are the 2 colours on the bottom, down the bottom here, these are the first things that I'll be looking for input and anyone who wants to volunteer to participate. And there'll be a planning phase of sort of 2.5 months, and should there be no massive technical changes, looking to kick off a beta phase, so that's a limited pilot with a limited number of storage providers and clients sometime between September and October. Okay, so the ask is, please have a view. We're in this Web3 world, and often it's the same people that are just saying this, that are always volunteering things, but you're all part of this community. And if you think this is important or you think there's something that needs to be a consideration, please say so. And I would love for, if you're willing to be part of that group, offer some feedback and some contribution, that would be really, really valued. Any questions?
If I were an enterprise customer, let's speak to an example of one, just so we can all understand that, and where we would be at in the sales process.
There
to
are
approach
there are a
them.
couple in. Is Seal here today? I can't see anyone from Seal. There are a couple that are trying to go through the File Plus program at the moment, and some are public and some are not. And the clients have some degree of not wanting to be revealed until after a testing period. So basically, they don't have data that can be inspected by a notary. It's not public. The shift of due diligence moves from inspecting data to the organisation. So trust is established with a human and a company, as opposed to just on data or a project. And the data could be just confidential business company data. It doesn't have to be restricted or highly classified. It's just stuff that's not public. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess my question also is along the lines of target pipeline candidates would be more towards object storage, or, and I'm somewhat new to Filecoin. However, I understand, traditionally what's in AWS, what's in Azure, what's in GCP.
Yeah. Look, I mean, proposition is still very similar to File Plus. We're talking about archival. Certain types are going to fit. I don't have the criteria for what a client and an SP looks like yet, only just an outline. In that planning phase, we will work out what might be fit for purpose for a proposition, and same in the criteria for a client and an SP.
Okay, thank you.
Paul, are you asking about like what type of customers are ideal customers for Filecoin, or?
Building a pipeline is something I have, but in a traditional data center co-location space.
Yeah.
They're sensitive, but I'd be willing to shift them if the economics work.
Well, the economics definitely work. I mean, you can talk to.
Well, they don't always work in the sense that if there's some cost on the gear is there, right? But if they're
Understand.
looking to upgrade,
Yeah,
it's cold storage, I understand that, but I deal with a lot of object storage.
that's a perfect target. That's a perfect target customer, because typically they will be storing archive data sets, or they're used to addressing the data in a non-POSIX way because it's a key value stored, right? Which I'm not saying that, it's more aligned, because we also have, the CID, we have like a key value sort of approach. And then also right now the latencies are really high, meaning like if you want to retrieve the data and actually use it, we're really cold storage right now when you look at Web 2. So we are building the CDN capability on top of it, but as soon as that comes out, we'll have more flexibility to move up in the stack.
And I'm familiar with that. Where I would run into this in a traditional, trying to either sell the co-location space or traditional AWS service is, I need legal support. Because I don't want to pay the
Yeah, I understand. Alex is here somewhere. Where are you, Alex? I'm already leaning on Alex to help with some of this. What are the thresholds? What is something that's fit for purpose for Web 3 and not too Web 2? We don't need something that's too heavy and doesn't fit in this world. And is your name Paul?
Yes.
You should be part of the working group.
Yeah. I just don't want to deal with attorneys, but I have to do it.
No. We have to find the right level to pitch this for service levels and contracts, and that it's clients understand they've got some responsibility here, and there's consequences as well. Like, we don't want to waste anyone's time. In a data center strategy, in the clients that you're working with, a hybrid is a really good proposition for them. You don't need to move everything straight away, but use a proof of concept to test it.
Yeah, if there was a boilerplate MSA, that would probably be very helpful.
Yes, we're working on one.
Some responsibility off of me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, so I know this is not official Filecoin stuff, but we effectively have a object storage API that you can sit on top of, and I'm sure there's other people that have it as well. Ultimately, and And so I think it's just a matter of ensuring that you have like SOC 2 compliance. And I think there's a number of people that have that, or at ISO 27001 if they're in Europe. There's folks that have that stuff as well. So I think ultimately it can be done. I guess my question, Meg, is how about folks like us who have sort of taken the time to do software development, to find customers who are coming to our website, paying us in fiat, and ultimately we want to be able to not only store that on, say, our underlying miners, but another SP's miners, right? Are we able to essentially like originate, self-deal, and then give copies out to folks if they want it to be replicated?
Yeah, look, that's part of the design of the distribution plan. Like, how will that work? So the reality is storage providers are doing the business development. They're going finding clients. Like, when I'm signing stuff as notaries, all of those clients already know their miners. They're not coming in, they're not self-aware, and they're not discovering this. They've already had some education from some business development process. So exactly how it will work is something that we're going to test. But there should be a lead origination bonus due to the storage provider that's doing all of that business development effort. And in the same way that you're going to source all the other storage providers that would be able to serve that client, whether it's within your local North America or whether it's global.
Yeah, I think the problem just becomes like the self-dealing problem ends up becoming a problem.
Yes.
Because you have folks that have legitimate
Yep.
users that are
Yep.
trying to onboard stuff via some other interface, and then you have obviously people that take advantage of the system. And I think
Yes.
you've seen that in File Plus,
Yeah.
where like there's still people that can't get data caps, or if they do submit for a data cap, it's seen as self-dealing. So is the idea here going to be that you just need to disclose who your customer is?
Absolutely. They're going to
Yeah.
go through KYC.
Got it.
And maybe storage providers will as well. Lots of things that we will test when we're working out in the first initial phase, and then we'll have our cohort of sort of hypotheses and clients and storage providers, and we'll take on a learning cycle in lean sprints to work out the detail.
Yeah. So I guess that. How do you? So like our clients are. We don't want to tell people who our customers are, right? Ultimately, because then somebody might go and try to sell them something for less. So I mean, have we thought about how to work through that problem?
No, not yet. But the KYC is between you and the client, right? We just want to establish trust that they're not going to abuse the network and that you aren't either. So we have to find out what that right mechanism is. I should have said up front, I don't have all the answers, and it's been a small working group of mostly me. And so all I'm trying to do is outline what I think might be viable, and I need help from the rest of you. So please do volunteer, join the working group so that we can work these out. And they will all be our assumptions and hypotheses. We'll prove or disprove them as we go through it.
Sorry to monopolize this, but since I have the mic, where are you at with relationships with traditional VARs then, from CDW, Kelway, SHI? Because that would really cement it on the enterprise side, because they can take on the risk of the concern of the product not working accordingly, and it helps us smaller salespeople to say, oh, we can do that cheaper than them because they have big overhead. Well, maybe
Yeah.
SHI doesn't.
You know, a competitive analysis would be really, really useful. We actually just did get one from IDC that's going to come to the community very soon. You used a lot of acronyms in a very short amount of time, and I don't know what all of them mean. But if you're in the working group, you'll be able to help me figure it out.
Yeah, and what I was trying to say is there are large value-added resellers that if we could get them on board, it would help the entire community, because their salespeople are not going to be anywhere near as technical in this room. Sorry if anyone works for them. But they will take on the large-scale effort of ensuring that if they bring on a large customer, possibly a bank or something, that they're able to do that because they have the time to burn that 18-month sales cycle.
Yeah. Look, I think that channel that you're talking about is probably a phase 2. We just want to have a look at what the rules are, get it right for this community first, as storage providers, but then, yes, we can have a look at what distribution channels might need and how they would use it.